Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good to have you again. I now have someone that I respect and admire a lot, a friend and a fellow, worker in the communities in Nelson Mandela Bay and South Africa at large. But she will talk to you about the work that she does, Varonique Philander. I know this lady from university, but not because she's just a friend, but because of the work that she was doing from ISEC long time ago. I wanted to start there with ISEC
Yeah.
without even talking to you much. But also, Veronique has been in business for 7 years and also has been in the legal fraternity for 9 years. So she is a seasoned legal practitioner with a private company that is evolving into even the IT space, and she'll tell us more about that. But firstly, I want to welcome Varonique Philander.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and sharing this platform with me. I really appreciate it. You're really taking me back to Isaac. I haven't I haven't thought back to those days in a while. So yeah, we have known each other for so long actually, and because we continue to just do what we do, we tend to forget, where we come from. So yeah, great
Yes,
to be here.
and I had to start there because at least that's at the time where your impact in student life was made. We started meeting because of that activism,
Yeah.
even then, and also because you were making waves. I remember as a student, you were starting to interact as well with the private sector and raising funds and doing serious things. Tell me from that moment, what has
Yeah.
changed? What have you learned as a Veronique today?
Wow, that's such a big sort of question because it reminds me that we tend to, forget, as I said earlier, that the things that we gather along the way are such important sort of tools and skills because we use it on a daily basis. And I think my days in ISAC had been such impactful days for me as an individual, being able to just learn as much as I could, but also in the same breath, sort of do what I really enjoy, which is really to be involved in the community, but not just involved, but in an impactful way. Be able to see what the needs are, assess that, be able to formulate ideas, solutions around those needs and problems, and really implement those as well, because it's not enough just to be able to identify a problem and possibly a solution, but it's so important to be able to deliver that idea and solution to the community. And sometimes that implementation is difficult. And I think if I think back to my days in ISAC, there were challenges as a student. We didn't have much resources, and credibility was also not really there. And having to go to big corporates, I remember going, with a taxi all the way to Uitenhage to go do a pitch. And obviously, when you go there, people don't really know like the backstory of how you got there. But being confident and bold in believing what you are doing at the time is going to make an impact. I think for me, I take that because that is something that today have to utilize as well as a skill, going and representing your own brand. Because I think technically it's slightly easier. Students don't know this, and if you have any listeners that are students at the moment, they don't know that you have this sort of ability to be able to be free in, telling people I am a student, but this is what I'm working on. And I really got the sense that people are keen to want to help. Students especially, when you are busy with projects, when you're busy with things that do impact. And I think that sort of freedom that I had learned there, I somewhat forgot along the way, because now it becomes a little bit more difficult when you have to represent your own brand, your own ideas, not necessarily coupled with a university brand, which is normally what you can do when you're a student. Like, I'm from this
Can leverage on
university.
the brand of the university, and
Exactly.
people respect the university. They'll probably look at you because of the university. But
Exactly.
let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
I want you to tell someone that has never seen or heard, met you, how and where do you come from?
Yeah.
Yes,
Where do I come from?
yes. Like,
Where,
constitute for us your background. And I'm
yeah.
asking that broad question so that you actually have a take of how you are viewed and how you are listened or heard by someone new.
Yeah. So I'm Varonique Philander. I am from Port Elizabeth, born and bred here in the Eastern Cape. I have a family, like I'm the eldest of three, but we're two now. And yeah, I have been sort of schooled here. Went to high school in Port Elizabeth as well. Went to Nelson Mandela University, what is now known as Nelson Mandela. When we
Yeah.
were at university, it was NNMU.
A tongue twister.
Yes, the tongue twist. And I studied law. I did BCom and then I did my LLB. And I've always been really passionate about, bringing out solutions to problems. I'm a solution-driven individual that is also a dreamer. I love to think big. I think I'm always optimistic about the things that I do, because when I do something, I do it, wholeheartedly,
But where,
completely.
where do you get that from? Say your parentage. Is it from mom, from dad?
Yeah.
Where do you draw that confidence, that drive, that focus that you have? You have like a sharp focus, a mean drive that sort of, we know that once your name is in it, it's going to work out.
Such a good question. I think it's something that you really need to sit down and, like, when I was in primary school, I was always sort of the kid that would want to do something new. Like, I remember I was the first one to ask permission, can I sell things at school? I don't know if you remember those chocolates that people would put in molds and things like that. And it's something that my mom had done previously, and I saw that when she was like trying to make chocolates to sell at work. And I thought, hey, there's an opportunity. When I was probably, I think, about grade 3 or so. And I wanted to sell chocolates. And initially, the first time I came, I sold chocolates, for example. And later on, I saw another kid wanting to sell chocolates as well. And when that happened, basically, there was a bit of a competition and a bit of a drama around that. And then we couldn't sell anymore. But the point is, I was always the one wanting to sort of like push the envelope in terms of ideas and in terms of things that we can do. And I think it's mainly because I grew up on a small holding, and there, when you're more like in the outskirts of the world, you really have to be sort of creative in the activities that you do. And how I come from an era where we used to like play outside and play with mud and make, cakes and things like that, and we would use our imagination to entertain ourselves. We didn't have YouTube, we didn't have these, programs, which are awesome, but like we didn't have that. We did have TV, but I mean, you were also sort of limited to what you were watching and when and so forth. So you really had to sort of source from your own creativity. And I think that's where solution-driven sort of thinking comes from as well. Like from my side, because I didn't necessarily come from much, so now you have to sort of be more resourceful in terms of what you have. But also, I think my parents had played a really big role in just sort of like who I am today and who I sort of grew up to become, because they are definitely, they don't give up. And I think having that sort of a mindset and seeing that in their examples of not being people that give up, I sort of drew from that and knew that, surely I'm here for something a bit bigger. If I can see their examples of what they had become out of the little that they had, surely now I need to. It's not just like a maybe, it's like sort of a must. I need to build from that and really step into who I am.
It's interesting. As you grow older, you start to even appreciate or understand your parents a bit more. Are there any of those instances where you're like, when I was young, I couldn't understand this aspect, but then I'm starting to see that aspect on me.
Yeah.
Do you have one of those
I think, yeah.
before we get to other serious things?
I think definitely. You know, sometimes my parents would definitely give some tough love when you know, in times where I would have wanted a bit of a more like a boo hoo hoo, like shame, you know, Veronique, don't worry, like move, you know, they would be like don't worry, but it would be like push through. So they really gave a bit more of a, and I joke with them even now today, like, hey, that tough love is actually something that was such a powerful thing at the time, because it made me stronger as an individual, as like in terms of my character, in terms of who I am. And so I think I understand that a lot better now. I can give an example. I wrote, like when I was trying to become a conveyancer, I wrote the first paper. I actually I failed the first time I went to go sit. And because I underestimated the quantity of work, and I just underestimated the whole exam. I thought people were exaggerating, like what, like surely we know exams, like we've written exams, we've done all of this. And then I went in and I was humbled by the first paper, and I remember calling my mom, said, look, I could not even answer the first question almost. This thing rattled me. I cannot. And the conveyancing exam is a 2-part examination. At the time it was, when I wrote it. And so I didn't want to write the second paper. And my mom was, look, you're there. Whether you passed or failed, it doesn't matter. You committed to this thing and you have to see it through. And so I think in that moment, I knew I was going to fail the first paper, and if you fail the first paper, you're probably going to fail the whole thing. But I went in, I got the experience of it, and I was able to write again, have the courage to go again. A lot of people don't, you know, they think, I've gone through this whole thing, it's not going to happen for me. But it's that tough love, and having the ability to know that sometimes, you know, it's an experience that you need to be able to push forward, is what really my parents had taught me. And I think it's something that I really appreciate now.
And those matter that you have been exposed to a particular, you know, journey. And now that you've been exposed to it, you are much more prepared with the pressures, preparation, and everything that requires you to be successful in that. And also that is part of life that people sort of dismiss as if it's a failure, or it's truly a journey that sort of enable you to actually succeed in life. Maybe let's move to the next one. But there's naturally so many things that I can talk to you about. But I want you to take us now to the legal fraternity in the country, the changes, the conversations that are taking place, and where you see yourself. But
Wow.
before then, I want to point you to these books and pull something that maybe a name that you might want to give a minute and talk about inspiration, knowledge, or anything else. You might not have read the book, it's fine. But anything that you know.
In terms of the books that are here,
Yeah.
I think something that, a title that
Oh,
is
that's
definitely,
interesting.
yeah, a title that is standing out to me is the No Longer Whispering to Power.
Oh, and that's Professor Tulema Donsela, written by Tandeka Qubule, and I've been seeing Sister Tandeka Qubule Mbeki recently on social media. To be interesting to also host one of these days.
Yeah.
And I was also part of the conversation on Twitter, hosted by the Tulema Donsela Foundation, which was quite interesting.
Awesome.
But maybe a moment, talk to us about Tulema Donsela. Any inspiration? What do you pull from her?
I think
Lessons.
the title stood out to me amongst many great books that you had there. But it's, you know, the No Longer Whispering to Power. What stands out to me is the boldness that, you know, as women we've really gone through a whole journey in really accepting who we are, and, you know, wanting a space at the table, but also carrying that sort of a boldness. And when I think about Professor Tuli, I think about this boldness that she has, but also just the firmness that she has in standing on what she believes. And I think no longer whispering is sort of saying that, you know, embracing that boldness, embracing the boldness in who you are, but also in what you stand for, and having a firmness and a steadfastness in that is something that a lot of people have, you know, challenges with, in believing, you know, when you get tested, what are you going to do? And I think when I think about her, I think about her ability to be able to, when she was tested, she was able to stand.
Yeah, and I understand there were also like negative perceptions, and there's politics are evolving. I don't want for us to spend time on that, but what are you no longer whispering about?
Wow. Myself, I think I'm no longer whispering or trying to be apologetic in terms of what I am working on. I used to be very much trying to be accommodating. You know, when you have a helping heart, you're wanting to do a lot of things for a lot of people. And I think for myself, I have, in the season that I'm in, embraced that I'm working on a project called, well, it's a startup, and it's a legal technology platform that really, if I may,
Yeah,
probably
please.
share
Yes,
about
yes.
it right
That's
now.
exactly what I want to
Yeah,
know.
so
Yeah.
it's a legal tech platform called Legal Ascend, and it creates wills and estate reporting documents using a simple questionnaire. And I'm no longer whispering about it. I think I had gone through a whole journey in trying to build this software, which is a whole conversation for probably another time. But you know, I'd been sort of resistant or reluctant to speak about it very publicly because I first wanted to have something in my hand, and that took a whole process to get there. And so now that, you know, I'm in a place, but also we are in a place with our technology, where we are assisting, you know, people, and we have users, and it's just now a matter of voicing it, and so the people are scaling and
yes.
creating awareness about it. And I think I'm in that place now where I'm ready to be able to share more about the vision that we have with the technology.
And in relation to the legal fraternity, the legal space, the country that it is in, I mean, we've had the you know, excellent work coming from about Dalimbo for people like we've had also at some stage about Beriru. Is it Beriru? We had at some stage Tulima Tonsela. We had at some stage Tembeka Ncukaitobi, Professor and Advocate Tembeka Ncukaitobi. And all these people are starting, they made us to fall in love with law, with the legal conversation. And the reason why I pull also this book, because they also talk about our past as diverse as they are. But I want you to tell me or talk to us about where you find yourself. Yes, with this technology and this app you are building, but where do you see yourself as a legal practitioner and the work that you do in the country or the community?
Yeah, I think perhaps just as background, I would say that I'm a practicing attorney and conveyancer, and as you mentioned earlier, that I will next year have been able to reach the milestone of being 10 years in practice. So that's excluding the 2 years of dreadful articles that you have to do before you get qualified. So I would probably sort of say I am not your conventional lawyer, and I say that with respect to all of my learned colleagues out there. I always knew that when I studied law, it was to be able to really utilize the knowledge, to be able to leverage that and create solutions that are going to be able to help people on the ground. So I have this concept when I started my business that really came to me, which is legal to the people and bringing access to justice. I think the legal fraternity in South Africa at the moment is entering into a interesting sort of space, because you have on the one side your traditional legal fraternity that we have known and that we've respected for all of these years, but there's also definitely learned colleagues that are saying, you know, change must come, and there are other ways in which we can do the same thing to be able to reach more people, and there are alternative, you know, solutions and sort of ways in which we can do it. So and then in sort of the middle somewhere, you have us that are wanting to bring technology to the forefront in the legal fraternity, and there are different ways in which, you know, there are different sort of solutions out there that are deemed to be legal tech, which is either whether it is to help the communities directly through a B2C model, or whether it is to, you know, assist our colleagues, our learner colleagues, with regards to their practices, in terms of how they are doing the current, you know, work on a daily. So that, you know, there's different sort of stakeholders within the legal fraternity. So it's no longer just a matter of, you know, being in practice for so long and sort of retiring from there. And it's really about how can you make, you know, it more user friendly at the end of the day, so that it can reach more people. And I think what we are doing with Legal Ascend is exactly that. We're wanting to really assist, you know, on the grassroots level. And so what we've been doing is we've been working with community paralegals across the country, but specifically in the Gauteng region. And we've sort of, you know, established these what we call document support services, specifically in respect of wills and estates. And we really believe that, you know, that's where the help is needed. And through technology, we are able to assist and really be able to reach more people that are perhaps a lot of the times, like if I can go into the estates, what the issue really is that we've identified is that, you know, in South Africa, in terms of the state laws, when you have a estate, so if you died and you left a will, which a lot of people don't leave behind, unfortunately, or if you left any property, so that could be fixed property, or it can be, you know, movable property, your laptops, your money, shares, or whatever the case might be. If you've left any of that, you have to report the deceased estate with a department called the Master's Office, the Master of the High Court, in order to be able to finalize the process. So how that is done is you look at the value of the assets, or, you know, the property that has been left, and if that value is over 250,000 Rand, it means you have to follow the full process, and you have to get an attorney to assist you with the process. And that's where the issue lies, because a lot of the times people have a house, which is their primary residence, like a RDP house, and it could just be over 250. The gross value of the estate can just be over 250. It could maybe be 300,000 or 260,000. And then suddenly, you know, they now need to do the full process, and there's now a lot of, you know, legal expenses. And a lot of the times people just leave the process altogether because they aren't able to pay 10,000 Rand up front, whatever the case might be. There's different stories. Technically, the cost should be, if you're assisting the executor, or if you are the executor, you are entitled to about 3.5% of the gross value of the estate. Now, a lot of the times the estate is what we would call like asset rich, but income poor. So there isn't a lot of cash in the estate. And that's where this, you know, the process becomes really difficult for the family that is being affected, that has been left behind. And I think, you know, a lot of the times, and I just want to mention this little part, is it gets stuck, but the problem then that arises is the fact that, you know, family arguments arise, properties never get transferred, the property is still in the great grandmother or whoever's name. A lot of the times there's, you know, family fights and things like that that arise, and people walk with that, you know, they walk around with that hurt, with that pain. I have cases where, you know, it's really difficult to really like try and untangle. I was looking for the word, like really difficult to untangle, and it gets vicious, it gets violent, you know, it gets serious. These are serious matters, and it starts with really educating why is the importance of a will. Like you would read on LinkedIn and on social media, a lot of people like giving you the consequences or giving you the importance of a will and whatnot, but we really don't understand
the extent to
the
which these things
magnitude of why it is important, because we don't really tell the stories that people are stuck in after the fact. The fact that a sister wants to kill or send a hit person to kill this other sibling because they want the person out of the way. We don't talk about the fact that we don't want to mention so-and-so's child, my sister's child, she might have passed away. Now the child is also now having a claim, and we don't want to mention them on the documents because my parent had said I should get the house. You know, we don't mention these things, and it really becomes difficult to really navigate as I suppose lay people, but also as a nation. I think we have to realize that this is sort of the current landscape, and a solution needs to be brought, and we want to be part of that solution. I think not just from a technology point of view, but being able to highlight the problem, I think, is one thing that we can definitely do, and being able to do that means you need to be on the ground. You need to be engaging with the people, and that's something that I've really spent a lot of time, I think, for the last 12 months doing, and probably even more, probably 18 months trying to do, going out to Orange Farm, to Dobsonville, spending time with people, speaking to them, trying to really understand the problems at hand, and being able to really hopefully be in a position to present data to hopefully the department, if anybody's listening, of justice, to be able to really bring that problems across.
So that is what I'm realizing, that for us to be wiser in our old age, we really have to touch these issues. We really have to experience, you know, these issues. We have to go and speak to people. You don't become a wise older citizen if you did not touch these issues in your younger years and all of that. And so it's a good trajectory that one can sort of say.
Yeah.
I don't want us to say much more, because I can hear your issues. I can take one of the things you've mentioned, and you've just provided us a nice general sort of fabric or an umbrella from which we can pick this conversation maybe going forward. Perhaps we should think about being our resident legal expert that comes in just once a term. You know, maybe talk for 10 minutes on whatever comes up that you want to share about. Because I can see that you are acquiring a lot of information, and there's generally no space to actually vent out these issues unless you are already fighting in the court of law, or you are actually doing the work in the communities. And one of your outlets could actually be these platforms. Just talk about, I know the will is a question that we could be talking about, but I know you can also do that from your own platforms, which you do have access to, but also for the benefit of those who might actually want to follow your conversation. Think about coming to us every now and then. Awesome. Other than that, I think that's where I'm going to leave it today. I really want to have more qualitative conversation, and not just a touch and go. And it will be great to have you to come back at some stage, even if it's not as frequent as we would want. It will be a helpful person. Thank you so much, Veronique. Did you even drink your water?
I don't think so, but thank you so much. I really appreciate the platform and your time, and always great to be able to share what we've experienced. I think that's how we learn.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had Varonique Philander, and I'm telling you, one of the faces you should remember, um, I can see she's going to end up in policy making of one kind or another, in legislation. I
Wow.
can tell you that she's going to be one of the faces that we will all build the future South Africa's on. Her company, her work in community, her drive, and the fact that she is one person we can model, you know, future leaders on. You can rely on her counsel. We have relied on her counsel every now and then, and we thank God that she's still working very hard. We want to see her grow, and please like her platforms, and I'm going to link all of them here, and also follow her and ask her questions where you need. But she's going to make it to pay. I know. Thank you so much, and
Thank you so
take
much.
care.
Awesome. Thank you so much.